It's so nice.
Okay,
So
we're
glad that he.
gonna get it fired up. Dan, tell me when we're good to go. Okay, this is technology at its best. Push a button and we're ready.
We are.
Okay, roll call. Carolyn,
Here.
Joe, Don,
Here.
Lou,
Here.
Carl, I'm here. Everyone's here but Jim Kearns, I guess, this morning. Get a motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Mr. Gottemoller, seconded by Carl. Is any discussion regarding the minutes from the July 1st meeting?
No.
No discussion. We'll go to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll go into public comment. John, is there anybody signed? Hey, John, is there anybody signed up for public comment?
No.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Members' comments? Any members have any comments this morning? No comments on that. We'll move right on to new business. And I believe I see Mr. Jurs out there. I don't know about Bob Kosin.
Bob Kosin was out there when I came.
Would you ask Bob? Bob is first.
Bob, you're up.
And all four.
These two, William and Mary, are part. He's part, and she's part.
Good morning, Mr. Kosin. Would you like to be right there at the head of the table, please? And
Thank you.
introduce yourself and a little bit about why you'd be interested in this position on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. My name is Robert Kosin, and it's the back of the shiny head that I'm bringing to this table.
I know the feeling.
Thank you, sir. I'm a resident of Crystal Lake, but more importantly, have been almost a 40-year resident of McHenry County. And I've already been serving on the ZBA and found it to be a very informative as well as an engaging position. Most interesting to me was how much little I'm aware of McHenry County and appreciate how there is a diversity of geography representatives on the county, from someone in Algonquin Township to the points far west, and understand that Boone County is not the edge of the Mississippi River. With all that, I appreciate this opportunity to appear before you, and if you have any further questions, I know where I can direct my comments.
Okay, great. Any members have questions? How many, I guess are you, no, you're full-time now, aren't you? Okay.
Yes, I am.
I see.
And you're reapplying basically for the position you have, right?
Yes, I am.
And there's been no issue with you making the meetings, attendance-wise?
None.
Okay. I've certainly read some of your testimony and stuff and was always quite impressed with it.
Oh, thank you.
So I don't really have any other questions. Does anybody else? Or
Bob and I've known each other for some 30 plus years. The first time I ever met Bob, Bob was a village administrator and I was coming in and getting beat up by Mr. MacArthur. MacArthur, sorry. It was a few years ago.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
So,
good.
okay, so I'm going to ask everybody, you've obviously been doing it for a very long time, so that I know you know the answer.
Oh.
But just kind of, if you could talk about what your role is on that, what, as a ZBA member, the primary role is, and speak to how you evaluate these petitions that come before you.
Oh, thank you. The ZBA is a process. It is a process that involves presentation by both state law and by the direction of county ordinances of specific findings, a specific presentation. But more to the point, I have found on some of the petitions a feeling that the applicant as well as those who appear feel that they have had a full range of their issues, and to which then the other role of the members of the ZBA is to present to you, the board, a complete package so that you have the information to make the finding that you found necessary when you deliberate on that petition. There is no rubber stamp, though I may on occasion wish there was one. But I found also diversity, again, back to that other point, of interest from the variety of people from the various other townships, especially one who is in the most urban of townships, and realize that McHenry County still has a broad agricultural base to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
and you have no other questions? Thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate your applying again.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's okay, I do.
Jurs is here.
Mr. Jurs.
He's here. Village Greenwood.
Hi, John. Good morning. How you doing?
He's retired.
Running late today? It's okay.
Where to?
Right up in front, if you would, Tom.
Good morning,
Good morning, and please introduce yourself.
Thomas
And,
Jurs.
Give us a little information about why you're reapplying for this position, I guess.
Yeah, I started out several years ago as an alternate. I think I did alternate for 2 years, and they asked me would I do a permanent position. I agreed to it. And I enjoyed doing it. I'm available.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Jurs? I've got one, I guess. That's, did you want to go, Joe? Or?
All right, you can go.
Okay. The solar farm issue. What is your vote typically on the solar farms when you're at the CBA meetings?
More than half I'm voting for them. There's been a few I voted against them.
Okay. Do you have a specific reason for their?
I thought they were inappropriate. I don't know my exact record on which ones. I more often than not vote with the group. There were a few of them I did vote against that I thought were inappropriately placed in the ground. I've got an agriculture background, and the ground was just dream dirt.
Yeah, I've had that feeling
And-
time too, personally, when they're putting these things on prime farmland, but the state
Well,
law.
I was
the state law
involved.
sort of
I was a
overrides us.
co-author of the 2020 comprehensive plan way back when. I volunteered 6 years of my Thursday evenings on that 2020, and the theme was preserve prime farmland. Well, the definition of that has changed, and it's not growing crops. They're putting solar on prime farmland. We had one in Riley Township not long ago that the PI, productivity index, land has a PI number, which is the productive. Jim understands it, he grew up on a farm. But the PI was like the highest in McHenry County. It was over 140 PI. And you gotta go down to Champaign County to find anything close. DeKalb County, there you can find 130s and 140s. Typically you won't find that in McHenry County. And I thought, this is just too good a dirt to put solar on. That one I voted against, and I knew I'd be the only guy. I knew I'd be the black sheep. I just voted my conscience.
Okay. I understand that. Unfortunately, state law conflicts with that.
I know that the county got sued. I heard all about it, but you know, and it's 6-1. So what difference did my one make? But I didn't want to see it come to the county board as unanimous. I thought there had to be one lone holdout, and that I wanted it to be me.
Okay. Joe, did you have something?
Well, the problem I have with what you did on that front is that you then put us in a position as a board. You're supposed to advise us, but your position is that you're advising us to do something that was illegal.
Well, I knew it wouldn't change anything.
I understand, but.
I was the last one to vote out of the 7.
I would submit that although Tom knew it was going to go through, he was the one ascending vote that would at least send a message that says we think this is wrong.
Well,
don't
I
think
do
he
happen to
threatened-
think it's
I don't
wrong
think he
too, but
threatened-
I don't
think
think
he
that,
threatened the approval, Joe, because he knew it was, 6-1, but.
I don't mind him not being a sheep, so.
Okay, let's just keep it orderly.
Oh, I think it's.
Here. Lou, did you want to?
Yeah, I do. I have to say that your comment concerns me, as does the county board's vote. When we are guided by state law, whether we like it or agree with it or not, we are elected, we are required. I get the whole conscience thing. I would rather they work to change that law, to make it more amenable, but I don't get to vote my personal opinion when it comes to issues of the law. And so that's just me. Thank you.
Jim, I didn't hear what you had to
Tell us a
say.
little bit more about why you should be on there besides this, and I think these comments are all inappropriate. I'm sorry. I think this is an attack on a volunteer to come in. I think we're inappropriate here. So, Tom, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I appreciate the question, Jim. I've been involved in real estate since 1988. I was on the planning commission for the village of Huntley for over a dozen years. I was on the planning commission for Coral Township for, call it 4 or 5 years. At the county level, the 2020 comprehensive plan that was written was 7 members. I forget the years. The years just kind of, the numbers don't fit the years anymore. I know I donated 6 years of my Thursday evenings to be on that committee. And we did the 2020 comprehensive plan, which history will tell you they killed it, they voted it down. And that doesn't bother me at all. The silver lining to that cloud was when I would come home at 9 or 10, 11 o'clock sometimes, my youngest daughter, Kimberly, still be awake. And she was in high school at the time. But I'd unroll these plans and before we went to bed, I'd explain to her, this is what we're doing and this is a transportation overlay and there's bike paths and airstrips and everything to do with transportation is in here. And the zoning uses, well, Kim thought it was kind of cool. And she got interested in it and she went to the University of Illinois and she got a degree in urban planning. She was your coordinator up here, Kimberly Jurs. She's now Kimberly Kollner. And she made a career out of it. So the fact that they voted that 2020 plan down, I don't care they voted it down at all. It was a reason for me to spend some time with my daughter in the late evening before bed. And you know, she's running the planning and zoning for a little town in Idaho now called Victor, Idaho. It's about 2,200 people, and she's their whole planning and zoning department, just her. And she's making it a great living out of it. So I'm tickled to death. I got the experience, and it wound up getting my daughter Kimberly a career. And you probably all know Kim when she was up here, you know, behind the counter in planning.
Let's go ahead, Carolyn.
I'm just asking everybody this, and we kind of, I guess we touched on a little bit, but so 2 things really, like, as a member of the zoning board, what are the things that you're looking to do when you make your decisions, or how do you feel, like, what are some things that you're considering?
I like the question. I enjoy being on it because of the variety of different land uses. The solar, just push that aside, and solar is solar, okay? But we've got, say A1 to some type of business in the county, and each parcel is individual. Each PIN number is their own unique, just like a person. And you try to fit everything according to the book, you know, according to our rules and regs. But, you know, they all got neighbors and they all got other people that are concerned. Now, we had one up here, which is in Coral Township. It was not too far back. We filled this room with objectors all the way from an adjacent county. There were people from Hampshire and Kane County that came up to object to this one guy. It's around the corner from where I live, but the guy wanted to go from A1 to I2. He owned 20 semis and wanted to build a truck terminal at the corner of Marengo Road and Seaman Road, 3 doors away from where I live. I've never seen this room full of 63. There were 57 that signed a clipboard that wanted to speak. We had to bring in chairs from down the hall. Now, that was a unique deal. Why he wasn't discouraged from doing this, I don't know, but boy, he turned around and seen 63 people looking at him that were all neighbors. Kind of put his tail between his legs and like, but he spent the money and paid all the fees and wanted to build a truck terminal for 20 semis in the middle of A1. That was a unique one. We had another one that was over by the gravel pit in Algonquin on Route 31. He should have annexed to the town of Algonquin because he was across the street. But he had like a little 3-bay mechanic garage or something, and he got turned down. I thought he should have got it, but if he would have just called Algonquin and said, would you let me be part of your town? I want to add 1 bay to my repair shop. They would have welcomed him with open arms, but that was another unique one. There's a lot of different land uses, you know, industrial, commercial, multifamily, that get thrown at us, that with the experience since 1988 doing real estate, you kind of figure, how can we fit this square peg in a round hole and make everybody happy? That's the challenge, and I think I got something to provide in there.
Okay. Ruth, did you have something further? Go ahead.
If you felt I attacked you, I apologize for that.
No, I'm leaning forward because my hearing aids don't come in for 2 more weeks.
I so
I got them ordered.
Yeah.
So,
If you felt I attacked you, I apologize for that. That was not my intent. So I do want to clear that up because I feel like we're supposed to ask hard questions.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So thank you for that. I appreciate clearing that up.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's not a volunteer position. We get a little check in the mail, but you know, that comes in handy. But
That's right.
you drive from Coral Township up here and do a 1 or 2 hour meeting, and that's a half a day at least. And I'm available on Thursdays, and you know, it is something I enjoy, and I think I got something to provide.
I appreciate that.
I
Okay.
appreciate your question too.
Anyone else? Okay, Tom, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for all your service,
Okay,
Jim.
John. I appreciate it.
William Kurnik. Oh, Mr. Kurnik?
Folks, how are you? Sir.
Good morning. You can have a seat right there if you'd like,
Okay.
or stand, whatever. And please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the position on the ZBA.
Okay. As I mentioned when I was appeared before you folks, I don't know, probably a half a year ago, almost a year ago, I was on the Arlington Heights Zoning Board as a chair for many years before I moved here. I worked as a steel mill design engineer for 4 years before law school. Then following law school, after I graduated law school, I defended public entities in civil rights litigation. I've defended the county in the past and a lot of municipalities in the area as well. I am an alternate on the board right now. I think in the past, I've probably attended less than 10 meetings or so. At the time, Kim sent me the email letting me know that there was going to be a vacancy. I was unaware that both Tom and Ed were going to be reapplying for the position. Frankly, you know, they have had much more experience than I've had attending the meetings, and not much more that I can say about that. I've enjoyed my tenure. I found that the issues that we've addressed are very interesting. I recognize that on the solar panel issues, we don't have much say. I try on a couple of occasions, I tried to settle down the residents who came and complained and talked about this being prime farmland, that solar panels are going on, and I said, we really don't have much choice, whether it's prime farming property or not. we have to let it go through. That said, I've enjoyed my tenure here. If you folks have any questions.
Okay. Carolyn, go ahead.
So I'm missing pretty much the same question, and you may not have been on this current ZBA board for very long, perhaps, but you were on the Arlington Heights for quite some time, and you were the chair.
Correct.
So you do have a lot of experience.
I do, but Arlington Heights was a pretty well-developed community, not a lot of farmland. I certainly wouldn't call it a farming community. We've had some interesting issues, some issues that would parallel the issues that are before the ZBA here, but for the most part, a lot of different issues that we don't have, at least that I've experienced here. So I do have experience along those lines, and experience as a leader as well.
And so how would you describe what somebody on the ZBA would do? I'm kind of asking everybody the same thing. You talked about taking some time to help explain the process and the law in terms of the solar panels, or what other approach or thoughts do you have about that position, or maybe how you handled yourself in Arlington Heights?
Well, both here and in Arlington Heights, there were a lot of issues that raised hackles in the community, that was one thing we like to see people walk away and be somewhat understanding of what the legislation is and what our role is, and that we really do operate and do what we feel is in the best interest of the community, in balancing the interests of the public, of a particular petitioner, the law, and the interests of the people who live around the area that we're addressing. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that's the way I feel our role.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, I do have a question myself. This solar thing is very contentious in this county, but state law is sort of overriding us. And have any of the solar petitioners come that you voted against, or do you follow with the state law, or which way do you go with that?
We are constrained to follow the law, and given my legal background, that's generally my position. If we're in an area that we don't have much discretion or any discretion, and as I see it in the case of solar panels and generally the philosophy of the legislature down in Springfield, we don't have much choice. We're pretty much handcuffed. So unless you folks can convince our delegates down to Springfield, our hands are pretty much tied. It's unfortunate, given the nature of the community here, given the prime farming land that we have here, that the legislature went the way it did. But they've said they want the state to be a green community, a green state, and unfortunately for the county here, we don't. I've got to follow the law, and in the few cases that where solar panels came before us, I voted in favor.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for applying and coming in and visiting with us again this morning.
Thank you.
So, that's all we need right now. Thank you.
Folks, have a good day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is Mary here?
Yeah, she's up there.
She's up there.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Hi, Mary. You just want to sit up in front, it's fine there?
Good morning.
Sit by me, I don't mind.
I know everybody knows you, but if you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit why you'd like to be a full-time member?
Well, my name is Mary Donner. I live next door at 2536 Verde Street, in Woodstock, obviously. And when I was here the last time, I said I would like to be a regular member, because I know I'm a very good temporary. Especially because I'm so close, but being regular means that I can look at all of the documentation for a longer period of time and be able to peruse what I need to do to be there. Sometimes, there was one time that they called me at 1 o'clock to be at a 1:30 meeting. I had read everything, so I knew, but I didn't have a chance to really delve into it again because it was such short notice. I keep a calendar that says Wednesdays and Thursdays, so I plan all my activities either in the morning or not at all. I know I was a paralegal for 17 years doing land use and zoning issues. I know what zoning is. I think I know what it's all about, and I know what you can do and what you can't do. There is so much information that having the background makes a difference. And I have that background, and I would like to change over to being a regular member.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Carolyn.
I've been asking everybody, so you've obviously been on the board, and just asking people to kind of talk about what they feel the role is and how you approach it, what's important, that sort of thing.
You take the information, you read what the staff report is, what the zoning originally was, what the zoning means for what you want to do. And you take all that information with the history that you have, and you decide whether or not what the person wants to do is consistent with what the rules are. And if they aren't, then we have to ask questions and find out why they want to do what they want to do, and we have to figure out whether it is consistent enough. Unless, of course, the state tells us that we have to do something. So that there are still questions that you have to ask, partially because it's all streamed. And anybody who wants to see a particular piece of information is going to look at that one, and you have to be able to give them background as you're asking questions. Not go into great depth if you know what's going on, but enough so that you're laying that information for other people who might see it in the long run, and give you folks information that you might not see in the transcripts.
Okay, anyone else have a question? Okay, well, Mary, I've been asking a couple of these other applicants this solar farm issues that we have. Very contentious in McHenry County, I understand that. What's your feeling on it? I guess I don't want to lead you to an answer.
Oh, no,
I just want
no.
Get your...
It's a difficult situation because it's kind of like a lawsuit. Anybody can file a lawsuit, but who has the information? I'm going to say it in a bad way. No, who has the ability to follow all of the rules? So you can get the underlying zoning as a conditional use. It's only going to last so long. I mean, people only live so long, and maybe this is not necessarily an area that's going to be viable in the long run because we have hydrogen, we have other things. We are advancing so quickly. But solar is there. I prefer to see solar on top of industrial buildings and have it part of that building zoning. That would alleviate a lot and it would give us more options, but the state hasn't given us those options. So this is only a start. And when we see something as they're starting to come to us now, that we can ask, for instance, you have farm fencing. They don't say that they're going to, we ask them to. They say yes, they're going to say yes. In the last one I was at, they wanted something done, and I said, well, you have 3 days to get it done. Oh, that's not enough time. Not from them, but from other members. And I said, no, 3 days is a weekend plus a day. If you can't, I know it was the porta potties for something that's going to be there. You have to get rid of them 3 days before they're done. You do it. Absolutely, they would do it. We asked about farming. Now we have people coming in that instead of wildflowers, it's either particular wildflowers that we're asking for, or they are learning more about it, and they're starting to bring in what's the term that they use? Garden sheep, something sheep. But the sheep are going to come and graze So it's still organic. It's even leaving more organic stuff in the ground so that 20 years from now, when something else is there, or we have to, if they get that far, we've made it sure that their ground, their property is going to be very harvest friendly, better than it is now. So, and it's not like they're losing money. They're getting paid for the lease of the property to do it. But once it leaves us, they still have a lot to do. Those farms don't get done that fast. They have to, a whole lot of other hoops to jump through. So once we lay the best groundwork that we can with the rules that we have available to us, that's what we need to do.
Okay.
I don't hate it. I just am more comfortable with it than I was when I started. It's a lot of education.
Anyone else have anything for Mary? Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much for applying and coming in this morning.
Thank you. Right on time. Thank you very much. It is 9 o'clock, see? Except I'm leaving, not coming in.
I didn't even know I was following the time schedule this morning, I guess.
Okay, take care.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, the next interview is Tim Watkins for the Greenwood Drainage District. One applicant, one position. And he is looking to refill the term that he is in currently.
We don't have Mr. Wilkins.
No, Mr. Watkins, okay.
Well, he's not late yet, so.
Well, he's not
He's not.
late yet. So. we
Is
can
he
take it-
currently on the drainage?
Yes.
Okay.
He currently is.
Well, there was a lot of water in the middle of the night.
Oh, boy, there was.
That's true.
He might be busy.
How long is that term anyway? Well, he's coming off of what term? How long was his term before?
The drainage district is a 3-year term and the ZBA is 5 years.
Oh, yeah, 22 through 24.
Want to do 9-1 or 9-2 while we're waiting? What do you want?
Well, he has 5 minutes yet. If he just doesn't show up in 5 minutes, it'll be a long 5 minutes, right? Don, what's your picture of the trees for? The picture of the trees you sent me. Were they,
Oh,
were they green this year, but they
I just
weren't?
wanted to share with Larry, I think, I don't know if you all remember, but last year in '23, when I flew up to Oshkosh, it was the end of July, and all of the savannas of oak were defoliaged. And I thought, oh my Lord, we're losing our oaks. And then we had the spongy moth, right, here in McHenry County, and you know, Wisconsin's really gone. I don't know if we're going to say McHenry. Well, this year, 99% of the trees were green again. Every one of them lived, and I sent pictures to share with Larry, and I'll send them to Scott too, because it was just so telling of, you know.
Yeah, it's too bad you didn't have the book, the before and after
I am
pictures.
so sorry I couldn't find any from last year. I went back into July of '23 because I took them. And if I do find them, I'll share them too. But literally just restored. Just, they all came back, it didn't kill. There were a few in those pictures, you can see branches, you know, that were stressed, or maybe there's still some in there, you know, but the MCCD, when they said they'll come back, they were kind of right. And then last year, I was with the forestry department, and they were kind of telling me, yeah, this area is not our interest. You know, we are following it out west. This year I went to see them, and their booth was closed. And
Oh, you mean the fair? Was that what you mean?
no, this is at Oshkosh.
This is not.
All the government agencies are at, it's a huge, 800,000 people go there. So all of the government agencies visit those with booths. So their neighbor was the parks, the national parks, and I said, where are the forestry people? I wanted to talk to them about the, you know, they call them gypsy moths still, by the way. And they said that every man in the forestry department was called to the fires out west. They couldn't spare one person even for public relations.
Wow.
They are at all men on board fighting the fires in California, and I think it's Utah where the hot spots are right
Friend of
now.
ours is over there too.
But what a mess they're having. Yeah. So, because I wanted to see what they.
Yeah, dig
what
into that,
changed.
see if you can find those other pictures from last year. I'd be
you know,
curious.
I know I didn't throw them away, and I'll look through all of July's of 2023. There's 2 spots to try, but I thought it was so telling.
Yeah.
So yeah, healthy growth there then.
Yeah.
To recover like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good sign. Yeah, send it to Scott. Too bad Scott isn't here.
He'd be jumping for joy.
I thought you were never gonna talk about spongy balls again.
Well, it was just it was kind of an exciting sight to see when I was going back up there to see all of those woods just restored.
Well, I don't want to get into anything too deep. You gonna check again, Peter? See if Mr. Watkins is out there coming in the parking lot?
We're ahead of time.
I was gonna say, he's not behind.
He's not late. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to just move to something else and get tied up into something and then make him wait.
Yeah.
That's what it's sort of what I was thinking.
I can do the zoning report if you like.
Zoning report? Maybe some.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fast. Sure. Sounds like a good idea, Renee. Thank you.
It's pretty easy this month. You have 3 on the consent agenda that are all conditional use permits. And they all had unanimous support from the ZBA. One is a yoga studio. One is a private landing strip, and the other one is a solar farm. And then on the regular agenda, the Prairie Enterprises petition's coming back up. That's the one on the old Flowerwood property. So their attorney called this week, and they're still working with Crystal Lake. So they wanted more time on this one. They wanted to push it. But the zoning ordinance requires that you guys take action within 180 days of the public hearing, or you extend the 180 days. So we left it on the agenda, it's on the consent agenda, and they've requested that you guys extend another 180 days.
And that's the Prairie Enterprises and the Crystal Lake thing, and
Yeah,
that's their request.
that is their request, yes.
Is there any reason why we would not offer their request?
I don't know of any.
Has a city weighed in on that? Have you talked to the city about
I
it?
haven't talked to them, I haven't spoken with them, no. No, I've only talked to the petitioner's attorney.
Are we at
I think
180
it's
days?
fair to state that the request coincides with an expectation that there will be more conversation with the city. I hope I'm not going out too far on that, but I mean, why else would they be doing this?
Correct. So are we at 180 days with this board meeting, or is it, I thought it would be next month, but maybe
It
not.
is September, but it's like right on the edge, so to be conservative, we're putting it on the August.
So would the 180 days start this month? Or would it start in September for another 180 days?
You can make it either one.
Okay.
It's up to you.
So that's gonna be asking for an extension.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to remember that. Okay,
And that's it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Short and sweet.
No Mr. Watkins yet?
Nope, I don't
don't see any cars out there either.
Okay. I'm not sure where to go with that one, I guess.
Do you want me to zoom them out?
No, that's okay for a minute. We'll deal with it when he shows up. We want to do another report. Adam, do you want to do the Illinois Conservation Code thing?
Sure.
Get into the deliberations?
Sure. Then get into deliberations, or do you want to do deliberations?
No, you do the Conservation Code right now, if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I apologize. This one I sincerely thought, of all of the ones that I haven't attached in the past, this one I really thought was attached to the agenda.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, sure.
I'm good.
You're good, all right, yes. All right, so,
I gotta ask you, Adam, is there supposed to be a second page somewhere?
Yeah.
Page 2 is blank.
you know what, no, that's, you can draw on it. I apologize, it's for notes, of course, yeah, everything has its intention.
It's meant to be there.
That's
That's,
It actually is, you know.
a little scattered when I print.
So this Energy Conservation Code, just to get things started, it's our concern about some building codes that are somewhat over the top for energy savings, right?
They're more intense than they have ever been in the past, correct.
Okay.
So, to give you an idea, this code's been around for about 20 years, and adopted in the manner in which it's in play now through state law for about 20 years. And up until, and every 3 years it's revisited and it's renewed based on the next version of the ICC's international energy conservation codes. This particular cycle, when they adopted it downstate, the amendments that are typically associated with the adoption, so they take that raw code from the international code, and then Illinois puts its own spin on it, its own flavor. And it's been very consistent over the last couple of years. So a couple of those items are the R value, so the thermal performance values for the walls, for the foundations, for windows, for skylights. They make little tweaks on those, and really what they do is they lower it. They've lowered the R value from the walls, especially in the foundations, to be 15, R15, so it'd be 3 inches of insulation board, of pink board, which would be a special order or duplicative, be a 1 inch and a 2 inch foam board against your foundation, and they reduce it to 10. And they make that just a 2 inch board, put it in, done. It's a cleaner install. So that's a good example of a good amendment that they've maintained and they used. This adoption, they didn't accept any of those. They incorporated none of those amendments. And the bodies that make those recommendations, they come from 2 parts. One is kind of this aggregate of building code officials that they write in support through the ICC comments, and that is shared. So there's a gentleman that's a liaison for the committees down there, downstate. And then there is CDAC. CDAC is a University of Illinois program that does outreach, it does technical assistance, it does education, it does just about everything as it relates to energy design. And they are really the primary amendment gatherers. They're the ones that would take these theories and they would test them and they would demonstrate with scientific backing why this works for the state or why this works for the area. And it's been accepted for 20 years until this year. And really what we've gathered as code officials and as building officials and all that throughout the state is that the state has a different goal. They've changed their trajectory of where they've been going to where they want to go. And the stated goal has been that by 2035, single-family residences that are constructed in the state of Illinois, the goal is to have them be net zero. The strides that they're taking start here. So the conversation away from records is how are we going to enforce this equitably? How are we not going to make this a big jerk in a different direction for builders, for architects, for homeowners that are trying to do their own projects. And that's an ongoing conversation. That's a challenging one, and it's led to a lot of frustration across the state. We're in a unique position in that, as a Collier County, we're very active. We're right up there in the suburban in terms of activity, as we would compare to the southern counties and the southern jurisdictions that have different enforcement practices. And I don't mean to say that there's more latitude for them. It's this law, it's changed to a manner that incorporates everybody who's involved with a project is responsible for adhering to these requirements. So if we dismissed ourselves from it, I guess the summation of this, if we dismissed ourselves and some people are just saying, we're not gonna do it, come chase us, whether that's official or whether that's not, that's been the posture across the state for some jurisdictions. That would still fall on the homeowner, would be the kind of the counterpoint that I would want to really make sure is understood. And the architects and everybody else that's involved. So that's the summation. There's a frustration level among the code administrators throughout the state.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
What do you mean by it would fall on the homeowners? I mean, that they would have to be in compliance? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yeah, so it's similar to, it's likened to the accessibility code where everybody that's involved with the project is expected to recognize and adhere to these requirements.
So just so I make sure I heard that right, then it would be the homeowner that would be in violation?
Correct.
And what would they do? They would look back and say, hey, you guys didn't enforce the thing, and
you would get brought right into it.
Look right back at us for it, right?
Yeah.
So do we have an official policy that we want to talk about?
So, I mean, we're doing our best to walk this balance beam, and education's our biggest tool. And the first thing, I mentioned it kind of unofficially last month, and going forward is what we try to get people to recognize is how to comply with it right off the gate. So formerly there are two methods to comply with it. Here's the rules, and then you have an architect sign off that this house will meet these rules. That's called the prescriptive method. So they prescribed it, and it meets. It's easy, 1-to-1. We look at it, let's do it. Those are a little bit more stringent because you can't demonstrate in a prescriptive method how your energy consumption for your HVAC units or your lighting, it doesn't blend as well. So there's another tool, there's the res check. We talked about that, and you're familiar with Wisconsin doing something similar. That tool allows a little bit more of that blend. It incorporates more coefficients, glazing areas, how it's oriented on the site, it's protecting shade, all that sort of stuff. So it's got a pretty nice little algorithm back there that will allow people to make these trade-offs without having such a robust thermal envelope. So that's what we've recommended to people is hit the res check and go through the performance standards there, because you can make little tweaks to make it work.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
You made a comment about the CDAC at U of I?
Yeah.
That I just wanted to clarify. Are you saying they didn't follow any of their recommendations, or they had the recommendations?
CDAC they're a recommending body. They're a body that does this type of analysis, and so they have provided, they've been tasked with providing the Illinois Energy Code Advisory Council of the recommended amendments. And so the Energy Code Advisory Council is the body that actually, the official body that takes these and brings them to the Capital Development Board for adoption. So
CDAC brought those forward to them.
Correct. CDAC brings here, this is the recommended amendments to the code.
And this is considered a state law then, once they adopt this?
Correct. So it's a state.
I don't see how we can fight this, and we just need to go right to it, right? Just like the solar farms. They're passing laws that you don't agree with, but you got to deal with it, right?
Well,
You're
right, Jim, but
Huh?
It's not coming to us, it's going to the planning department.
Right.
right. But you
So how do you
can
not,
finesse
how do you
it.
not accept it?
Well, this red check thing is you have to do how much window space you have, how much wall space you have, what are the different R factors in each one. I haven't done it for a long time, so I'm not really very knowledgeable about how it goes anymore.
Sure.
But
Nailed it.
that's it, right?
Yeah.
And you have if I remember right, I had a formula sheet, so I put down how many square feet of windows, what the R factor was of the windows. And when I got done at the end of the day, I added all that stuff up and it had to hit certain number, and then it was okay, even though I didn't comply with every building
Correct.
code thing, okay.
Well, that's how that works. So if you're not, I mean, that's why the res check is better, because it looks at.
It gives them, yeah.
So you could take a geothermal system that has just a small motor that's used, that would displace, compressor and everything else, that would be drawing a lot more energy for air conditioning. And now all of a sudden you don't have that load, and you can add more windows, or you can beef up your insulation and have LED lights, and now you have less heat load from your lights and you have more insulation. And all those trade-offs are factored in there with ResCheck. So it's a very good tool. But now really what it is, so there's no denying that. But what it is now there's one way to comply.
Yeah, but you can comply, but.
Or comply.
Yeah, as I remember, it's also quite a pain.
When we're in municipalities that require it, the architect does it because he has the programs based on his blueprints.
Okay.
But, when you have a house that's zero, what do you call it, 30 from net zero? Just, we're in the weeds, I know, because there's nothing we can do at this point. I mean, this is like it's just some funded mandates, but when you have a net zero, I really highly suspect that you probably won't have a healthy house because it's not going to breathe. A house has to pretty much breathe outside air, which would make it not net zero. You're going to be breathing your carbon monoxide of your own breath. I mean, at a certain point, when this energy code started 15 years ago, a builder in Crystal Lake adhered to it specifically, prescriptively, and they did a blow test, a vacuum test on the house to see just how much air it was losing, and the house was so tight it flunked. They had to open it up and put vents of outside air to come into this house to give it outside. So whatever it negated the energy savings by letting cold air into the house so the house would breathe. So I think that the people that are reading this aren't taking any of this into consideration. And it's really, they're not building healthy houses in the future.
Yeah. Lou, did you know?
Something we talked about in the workforce group that didn't get into the report was how building ordinances increase the cost of stock. And how can we look at those in a reasonable way and be compliant? But then the other thing that they're noticing and talking about is building smaller homes. Like, do we actually need 4,000 square foot homes? Could we have smaller homes on, and so that didn't make it into the report, but I can tell you that it's dangling out there as one of the possible ideas on how we increase the stock of workforce housing. And so what we're talking about here is also being talked about on the development side. Came up several times. I mean, I don't know, we're as the county, we have no authority over local municipality ordinances that they have, but we do believe we can engage in a conversation. How do we make this reasonable? Increase our stock of workforce housing, meet our targets. I mean, it's very complicated. And I think that was what we really came to, which is why it was not in the report. Because it's so complicated that we couldn't have answered the questions that probably would have come up. And I think we're going to roll that to year 2.
Okay. Good, Carl.
Knowing that it's new, but seeing these idiotic rules, which this is, are you, keeping any data of, hey, it's getting too expensive, the hell with it, I'm moving out and not gonna have construction or spend the money to do this? Is there any avenue that data maybe
We haven't
collected?
we haven't had anybody come in and just, pull it and just say, because of that right now. Now we have had people come in and cancel because naturally construction costs they've been up. So naturally some people are shocked by that and they need to dial back or revisit their plans. The stat that shows that this has an impact is that before it took effect locally, it was adopted January 1, and we had 180 days to enforce it, and that was June 1st. We had 4 or 5 houses applied for on May 31st. So just to beat it. And so it's very well known. I mean, that's almost, that's 5% of our total houses for the year. So that's a big number for us to get in one day. So that's known.
Yeah, just by your explanation is like, why bother? It's gonna be too expensive. I'll go 20 miles to the other state and take care of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
that's very good
Yeah,
point.
but that won't solve it because it's
our
a national
data,
code.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No,
Sorry, it's a
they're
national.
superseding, CDEC is superseding the international code.
I know, but it's gonna end up in the other states too. It's not just here.
I don't know, Joe.
Okay.
Because Illinois has decided to adopt it.
The groundbreaker. Yeah.
Right? And the other thing that I asked you about, Larry, was could we bring this on for conversation is I wonder if we could, Scott or Adam or Pete, somebody, go to the Illinois Association of the Counties and see if we could get enough counties together to maybe reason with these people moving forward to relax this, making it more voluntary rather than mandatory. I mean, is there something we can do as a county to try to help the workforce housing? Because you would have to obtain a net zero, take the windows out of the house. You'd have to build like the Apollo 13. There are bureaucracies at work right now that are making unobtainable goals.
But I'm sorry, but the net zero is 2035, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah, that would be 11 years, Larry.
Yeah, I know, to go fast, but they had some type of relax it right now, so we could get a little bit further along.
A window is a 2.7 R factor. They're going for 30.
Yeah, well,
Lou was next.
I think it wasn't about bureaucracies, what we discovered. It was really about financing, like how do you get financing for workforce housing? How do you encourage municipalities to partner in making that a priority in their communities? And we asked the question. I think the most obstructive bureaucracy we ran into was IDA. You know, from the minute you think about the project to putting the shovel in the ground, it's 3 to 4 years. That talk about, like, I don't know, as a developer, and so, I mean, I think it's complicated. And we have a responsibility to the environment and conservation, and how does that look as we negotiate and consider how we build better and build stronger and look at land, look at land. I mean, it's, right? I just think it's really beyond my pay grade to put it all together, so.
Peter, did you want to interject?
If you don't mind, I do anticipate, as we develop next year's legislative program, both for the state and federal government, that there is interest from our federal and state delegations in looking at ways to make workforce housing happen easier, both at the financing level, and this is another layer, John.
Right.
Maybe we can pull that in. You know, we want to share our workforce housing report with our federal delegation, with our state delegation, but I'd like it to be shared as we couple some common sense requests to add more efficiencies to the process. That was kind of a bedrock of your report, is that it needs to be easier. It needs to be easier, it needs to be quicker. You know, the fact that we saw, the city of McHenry saw Taylor Street apartment plans 3 years before we got to the groundbreaking, that's an example of how this has to happen a little bit faster if it's really going to be effective. I also do think, while ISACO can be a partner in this, I think we got to get the municipalities on board, because really that's where more of the development is happening, in particular the workforce housing. You know, they're not doing it in unincorporated McHenry County.
Yeah.
So those are our partners. We're meeting this Friday with our McHenry County municipal planners. Shailen is gathering the band together. We're going to go over a number of topics, and there's no reason we couldn't begin to plant the seed, because we are going to talk a little bit about workforce housing and some of their ideas for legislative changes next year.
Yeah.
It'll be a good.
You know, and a good point that you made, some good common sense, you know, legislation to, you know, to address what this means in the real world.
The real world. Yeah. You get
Well,
it.
they're not living in it.
Carolyn, go ahead.
Well, I would, so, and I'm glad you said that, and your comments are great, and you know the industry, so, it does need to be easier. This took way too long. These kinds of regulations can increase costs, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that over time, those homeowners are gonna be in a house that needs to be energy efficient because energy costs are going up, and they could end up paying for it on the back end. So as long as we're trying to,
Yeah, maybe there's a balance.
there's a balance that we need to figure out
Maybe there's
here.
a trade-off.
Exactly.
Sometimes maybe there's a formula, you know, you get this
Absolutely.
kind of insulation if you get this kind of pricing, or vice versa. I don't know.
Because I know we keep talking about the upfront cost, but you get people in those homes and they're, you know, they're maybe drafty or they're colder and now their energy bills are higher. And then how hard does it become for them to stay in that house because they can't afford the energy costs or whatever? We do need to make them more efficient. We need to be taking advantage of putting the solar panels on a roof and not on prime farmland. We need to think about, you know, are there opportunities for geothermal on new developments where the ground hasn't even been broken into? They're so much easier to install that way. So I mean, and I think that if we keep that front and center along with the cost of production, we come up with a better balance going forward. It's not just one or the other.
And then if I could, just not to berate this too far in a waste of time, but you know, there are things that I don't know that CDAC and these other entities are testing what they're prescribing. Years ago, there was a company, Wausau Homes, I'm sure you've heard of them. They would build houses and then bring them out to the sites. And they were building those houses so tight. They did a great job. They were very energy efficient homes. They were from Wisconsin, so they were really cognizant of this. And they over-enveloped those houses and they were rotting from the inside out. And I do worry, and Adam, I know you know what I'm talking about. I do worry, they're gonna tighten up a house so much that the wood is gonna be rotting from the inside out because you're having inversions of temperatures with no way of breathing to dry them out. So, and I wonder if they're even testing these homes. So when you say, let's do it, you know, it's like, are they testing these houses? Do they know what this is gonna turn out to be? Because, well, some homes want to
Well, I think, yeah, that's fine. It was a good conversation. I think Adam, Jim, did you have something you want? Yeah?
And I confirm this, but like Adam, this is also, how does this affect the remodels, not just new building? How does it affect, and does anyone have an idea what it would add to the cost of a remodel and a new home to do this? Percentage, is there a rough percentage what this is gonna add to this?
So I'll answer your first question, which it does apply, yes, and kind of elaborate on that. You know, for additions and alterations, we take as how we look at it is what's being proposed. So if it's a rec room that doesn't have, you know, furnace or any of that other stuff, any of the guts, all right, now you're going to meet those insulation standards and the windows and all that sort of stuff. If it's an addition that has all that in there, now it would be meeting that envelope, would be meeting the standards. The existing, where it interfaces or with a remodel, it can be no less compliant. So if there's no insulation in there, you don't have to put insulation in there, in the walls or something like that. But people will insulate it, and so at that point, it's compliant. So that is, we have a little bit more discretion with remodels specifically, and those are case by case. Additions similar, but again, we look at what's being proposed. We wouldn't have data on those, on your second question. We wouldn't have data in terms of what those cost impact implications are.
Okay, well, thank you for the report.
You're welcome.
I know you're in a difficult position with this, but it sounds like you've got a path to work with.
We're working through it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sounds good, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Ed.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna not have the interview today for the Greenwood Drainage District, but I think we can back up right now and go to 5-6. Deliberation and selection of zoning board of appeals, 2 applicants to recommend to the county board chairman.
Okay, yeah.
Couple different ways we could do it. Again, both together, do them one at a time. I'm thinking there's only 2 positions, we just do them one at a time. If that's
Maybe
okay.
rank or
Yeah, we can have discussion first.
Are you
It's in
guys,
Pennsylvania.
so you're going to get stuck with this? Kind of put on the board, maybe? Yeah. Okay.
So, does anybody want to start the conversation? Just
Sure, I'll
go
start.
ahead, Joe.
I like Bob Kosin. He's done nothing that, as far as I'm concerned, to replace him from where he's at. We've all had the opportunity to watch, assuming that you're reading through your stuff. I haven't agreed with everything he's done, but generally speaking, I'm comfortable with where he's at. My concern about Tom Jurs, candidly, is that I don't like the fact that he's decided to put us in the, in the shooting range, because he doesn't like something the law says. I don't like what the law says either, but that's the question for the zoning board is, did it meet the law? Not what your personal opinion is. Kurnik seems like a good guy. Mary Donner would know forever. I'll see how the rest of you feel about what you want to do with the town.
Okay, well, let's stick with one for a minute. Open up your comments. Whatever's on your mind, go ahead and get it started.
Well, I support Robert Kosin.
Okay?
I think he's just done a great job so far. He's follows he does what he's supposed to do, and he really understands it, so I'm going to say that.
Okay. Carolyn?
I agree on Kosin. I think he has done a good job. I like the fact that, where did I put it? He makes sure that the petitioner feels like they got full vetting, that they got everything was looked at, their concerns were addressed. I really thought that was important. He does go by the state, and he mentioned it himself before, we said state and county ordinances, making sure to follow those. I mean, I think he really was very thorough. I do listen in on how they conduct themselves, and I thought he does a good job.
Okay.
He would be my
Anyone
top
else?
choice on that one. And we're just all talking about Kosin right now, Kosin or whatever, right? Is that what you're saying or no?
I think that would be the way to do it, but if you want to go and do them both, it's up to you. I personally liked Bob Kosin's, and as you said, I had written my notes, the applicants get full vetting. And the other thing that he said that I thought was important was he tried to make his testimony specific for the county board to have easier decision-making possibilities. I think that's important that they would be able to relay it somehow to us, so when I look at the testimony, I can make a better decision. And he was pretty much clear that there's no rubber stamp to these things, and that's the case. It's what makes them so difficult. So, I did have some problems with Tom Jurs too, and I don't think it was an attack, Jim. I think it was a fair question.
I think your question was a fair one.
Okay.
I'll say right now, I think your question was a fair one. But you answered your question answered everybody else's same question, which was a pile-on.
Well, maybe I got to it first, I guess. I don't know.
So, I think I could live with Kosin. I respected him. That's no big thing in my opinion. He's experienced and he's professional, especially his background. I've got to be honest with you on Jurs. We're poking at the solar, but the fact is well-rounded in his experience here in the county. He's given his life to McHenry County. The other thing, he made clear that it was a 6-1. This is still my opinion. He didn't get us sued from those solar farms. We as a board got us sued from those solar farms. Tom had nothing to do with it. One vote. All of those were approved by the zoning board. We as a county board voted no. Tom didn't get us sued.
I have no problem with it, that it was approved.
Yeah.
But when I'm voting on the county board floor, I like to vote in favor of what the ZBA is recommending. And if I got somebody from the ZBA not recommending it, I got to think, well, why? Or go against it.
And on that, which would be one of the reasons why I like the guy, because he says his opinion.
Carl? Yeah,
I'm fine with Mr. Kosin. And I'm also fine with Mr. Jurs. Occasionally you need to stop being a lemon and stir the pot a little bit. We've stirred the pot. He stirred the pot. Maybe that might start sending a message downstate that, hey, get out of our business and let us do what we know how to do best. I got no problem with that.
Okay, Carolyn?
So I guess we're talking about Mr. Jurs as well. And I understand that, I can appreciate that, but when you start to give your opinion on something in one area, then the question becomes, is your decision more, we need to be sticking to standards and be in compliance with not only our own ordinances, but state law. So it's one thing, I mean, we do make statements when some of us on the board can vote no, even though we know it's gonna go through, but that's not his role on that board. His role is to follow the standards, to follow the law, and bring forward the best decision possible within that construct, within the constraint of those laws. And so, and to Larry's point, and to bring back that for us to understand, and then we have a better understanding of, they've done a full vetting, right? And so when you start to give your opinion on some matters, I don't know. I personally think that, I get that people on our board are gonna make a decision about how they vote because they're trying to send a statement. And I think everybody, I don't think there's one person on this board that isn't frustrated by the constraints that have been placed on us by the state, especially regarding solar panels, and now we're gonna be dealing with the building. But in this particular position, I would be more comfortable with somebody who's going to stick to the law and bring forward the recommendations based on that. So I would not be putting my name on Mr. Jurs at this point. And I do appreciate his service. That's how I feel.
Okay, we've had enough conversation for Robert Kosin, I think. So I'd like to take that out of the picture. If we could have a resolution, a motion to, Jim, you making a motion or you want to speak first?
No, I don't have an objection to Bob Kosin. I was late for his interview. I apologize for that. I just caught the tail end of him, but I do know Bob Kosin, and so I would make the motion to approve Bob Kosin, and then I'll speak to the rest.
We have a motion seconded by Mr. Gottemauer for Robert Kosin to fill one of the positions to be recommended to the county board chairman to fill one of the positions. Is there any further discussion regarding Mr. Kosin? Then we'll go to vote. John?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes for Mr. Kosin too.
Okay.
Yo, boy. Yeah. Okay, further discussion for the second position. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, now I'll talk. You know what, I do like all three of these. I like Jurs. I do like that he speaks his mind. And takes solar farm out of the issue. Mr. Jurs does have a lot of experience in the real estate, in buildings, and in the farming and everything else. He rubs people the wrong way a lot of times. That's his personality. He rubs them the wrong way. I rub people the wrong way. And I agree with him on solar farms, but I do agree with Carolyn that that's not the position to voice your opinion when you're in the zoning part of it. So he's, although I really like Tom, he's not my favorite of all four of these, or three of these four. He's not my favorite. And I almost think we should talk about the other two, because I can see right now, Mr. Jurs is probably out of this category. There's only.
I think that's a good idea, Jim, in that I'd like to keep the conversation positive,
Right.
if we can, no matter who you're talking about.
So I would move down to the last two. I really like Mr. Say that, Kurnik? Kurnik. I really like Mr. Kurnik, what he brings in past experience to the county. Mary Donner, on the other hand, we all know Mary Donner and have served with her. She's been big in the transportation side. She's former county board member. She's the 2050 plan, and she's been very active in it. She does prepare for meetings. She comes prepared for battle all the time, and she is very good. So if I were going to lean to one of those two, I would lean to Mary Donner, and I'll leave the rest for you guys to say. But I just think Mary is extremely qualified for this position with us.
Okay, Carolyn?
Yeah, so, and I was looking through, I did very much like William Kurnik, I really did. It was interesting for him to say, oh, somebody else is more qualified than I am. I mean, we're sitting here with an attorney, very, considerate of his other members of his, team there. He's, an attorney. I think he does have the experience in talking about Arlington Heights, but I do agree Mary comes very, very prepared. She works really hard. She's wanted the full-time position on this. She's preparing in advance of it if she gets called. I really liked William, but I also like Mary. And for exactly what I'm talking about, I think we're not going to lose William. I think he enjoys what he's doing, and I think he'll come back and want to try again for a full-time position. But I know Mary has been working really hard, and I would be comfortable with giving her the second spot.
Lou?
I'm not sure Mary answered your question. Clearly, I like that William Kurnik clearly answered. I mean, he was succinct, he was clear.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I thought in a roundabout way she did get around to answering the question, but she didn't. I didn't want to lead her to an answer, so maybe I didn't say it quite the same. It might have led to a straighter. Okay.
Anyway, that's just a noticing. I sometimes think the challenge with zoning, planning, I've been to a couple of municipality planning and zoning meetings, and they sort of leak into the personal, and I think for us, it's so important that the ordinance clearly guides how they decide on projects when they fully vet the whole thing. And so I'm actually leaning to William Kurnik as my second choice. I don't know, I like his background. I like that he's an attorney. I think he brings a different dynamic. I think Mary is amazing, but I don't know that I think this is the best role for Mary. That's just my own.
Okay, well, I like them. I like them both, just as you stated. I found my notes, and the note I put down here was that Mary abided by the law, but then she went through with, but we can put these conditions there. So I think she answered my question satisfactorily, on that part of it.
Yeah,
that's where she went on the conditions and, which that part I sort of like too. But I don't want to dominate this. I'd like to hear from everyone. Go ahead, Carolyn.
I do want to go back to, because what I really did like about William was his, the very neutral position he took, that he really was looking at, you know, I'm trying to go back about what he said. You know, following the law, but I remember thinking that in reading his, you know, what it was that he felt that they do on the board in terms of what their role was. I liked his answer on that. So it was, I mean, I do like him a lot.
Well, he used the word constrained. We are constrained. Doesn't mean he agrees with it. He recognizes the challenge in the choice of the word constrained.
Yeah. So this, I mean, you know, it's hard with two positions. I think he's also very good. So that's, anyway, go ahead, other people.
Don, you want to get in on it?
Absolutely, I have an opinion on everything. You know, at first I was gonna go with Kurnik, but I'm thinking if we want everyone on that board to be the same person, it would be Kosin and Kurnik. If we want a board that's gonna have a little bit of diversity, it's my next, knowing that Jurs is not gonna make it, would be Donner, and only because Donner would have, just offer a little bit of diversity and a little bit of personal opinion on her thoughts, where I think Kurnik would probably go with, well, spoilerplate, it fits here. I don't think we want one board of one person or one thought. If you want a little bit of diversity, I think Mary's our man.
I just got Adam, and I don't, is there another attorney on the ZBA right now?
So, I think Stone
passed away. So
yeah, so he was the attorney. I know that Jessica Jessica Beverly is, she has, I don't know if she's been able to serve as often, but she is, her background is attorney, she's an attorney.
She's an attorney.
I was curious for my own personal information.
Right.
But, so we're not overloaded with attorneys, that's for sure. Jim, go ahead.
No, we could certainly use one.
So, you know, I think this goes either way here. I do appreciate the diversity. I don't mind seeing a 6-1 or 5-1, whatever the votes end up a lot of times. I don't mind seeing people vote no on things. I agree people should sometimes disagree on things. And so, as you all know, that I disagree on this solar issue on the board floor, but I think that's more the place to do it, which is why I selected these other two. Okay. So, I would agree with John Reinhardt on Mary Donner. I would, if everybody's done with comments, I would move that we approve Mary Donner.
I've got one thing to say before you. I don't have any problem with the motion. I just
Oh, you haven't said. Okay, I missed you, Joe. You're so quiet over there.
once in a while.
Okay, Jim, you're done?
I'll defer to Joe.
And, okay, Joe?
Well, I wanted to make clear, one of the things that we're forgetting is that the zoning board actually fills what they call a quasi-judicial role. They actually determine the facts. And that's what they're supposed to be telling us. These are the facts of this petition. And when it comes to us, we're not actually even allowed to substitute our opinion of the facts when it gets to the courtroom if somebody goes up. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not happy with what Mr. Jurs was doing. I'm like Jim, you probably know him longer than I, but not much longer. I think I've met Jurs in the mid-'80s. And I've talked to him a lot of times over the years. He's a good man, but he's out of his role when he does that stuff, and that's the trouble that I have. As far as Kurnik or Donner, I could go either way with him. I certainly did not know Mr. Kurnik as long, but I've known Mary Donner the same thing I met her before she was ever on the county board, when she was working with Jim or Dan Curran, way back when. So I'm perfectly fine whichever way you guys go on the other two. But I do want you to remember that to give you an idea of how it works, when I was petitioning, I was allowed to call any county board member. It's actually considered a breach of ethics for me to call a zoning board member and lobby them. I could lose my law license for that when I was doing it. It's like calling a judge. You don't call the judge. You talk to the judge in a courtroom in public. You don't talk to a judge on the phone saying, hey, I got this case coming up before you. That doesn't, you can do it once, but you will only do it once. You won't be practicing long. And so that's the difference in the roles. And that's why I just think it's important for them to understand. So,
Do either of those two, excuse me.
I'm fine.
Do either of those two violate that in your mind?
I don't think either.
Okay.
Okay, but Carl hasn't had a chance to speak yet. Or maybe, go ahead, Carl.
Okay. I'm content with Mary. One of the things that prompts me to go, she's like a little spark plug. She comes prepared, she digs into it, and she'll prompt thought. And yes, you have to follow the law, but she'll get you thinking about it, and she's just got the energy to go in there and get her done.
Okay. You had something else?
Well, no, I just wanted to say that I was also fine with Kurnik, so I'm fine with putting my name on there, but I think I know it's gonna be a matter of that, but I do, kind of like what Joe was saying. I mean, there's things that I really appreciate about him, but I also know Mary's been working really hard, so
I
anyways.
appreciate him too, Carolyn.
I'm sorry?
I appreciate him too, I agree with you. But
If
I think that when you said that, I don't think we're gonna lose him if he stays on.
Because they're all on right now, in some capacity, right? We've got,
I-
he's part-time and she's part-time.
I didn't know it was 5 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
But I'm sure we'll have somebody else coming up.
Yeah.
There'll be a position next year open, so. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I guess the last thing I just want to say, Larry, is I've known Mary Donner a long time also, but I think that my decision has to be what's best for the zoning board. That's how I look at it. I don't know that I think Mary outweighs William, and that's just it has nothing to do with Mary's qualifications at all.
Okay, that's what we're here for, is to get your opinion out. Jim?
So I go back to my motion then?
I thought you already made a motion, but you can make
The
a
motion is?
Yeah, I just wanted to move for Mary Donner.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Carl.
What is the motion? Could you?
The motion would be to recommend Mary Donner to this term for the zoning board. Recommend her to the chairman for appointment. So is there any further discussion on this? We hashed it out pretty good. I'm okay with Mary too. I think she's a very dedicated person. I think Mr. Kurnik does a great job, and hopefully he'll stay as an alternate because he brings a lot of value to the Board of Appeals, and so I just got that in there for my last conversation. Anybody else, or you want to go to vote?
Let's vote.
We're going to vote. Lou?
No.
Carl?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
John?
Me too.
John?
John, I should have started with you. I know, I was trying to be tricky and start in a different spot.
Yes, no worries.
Okay, John?
Yes.
Okay. Very
Can I
good.
help you?
Okay. Adam, what do you think we should do with 5, 6, 7? We got Mr. Watkins that did not make his appointment. Can we put that off till next month?
Did we have any other applicants for that one?
No.
And I think we're off till next month anyway.
Should we reopen it?
Say that again, Joe?
So we're off till next month anyway, unless you want to do it without his approval, but I'd love to know what happened, but.
Currently, there should be 3 members. One of the positions has been open for quite some time. And then Mr. Watkins' position expires the end of August, leaving just one person on the district.
But he would stay on and fulfill it even after it's expired. I don't know the rules on that one.
They're gonna need for their They're gonna need their members for levy and all that, right,
Should use
Joe?
permanent marker there, Pete.
Just leave it be.
Scott's gonna kill you.
That's gonna kill me.
Scott's gonna kill you.
I got some strong stuff in the other room.
I'm not comfortable electing him when he's not here. I don't think there's any issue with him. Maybe something come up this morning that is not his fault at all. So could we?
He filled out an application though, right? And I'm okay, extend it August, I mean, but 1 month isn't gonna kill us.
Okay.
I'm good with extending it
I'm all
out.
right with it.
Okay.
Extension to next month's meeting.
Do a motion to forward this to next month's meeting,
Motion to continue to the next month's meeting.
seconded by Carl. Any further discussion regarding moving this to the next month? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-7's going on. We were jumping around here a little bit.
For whatever it's worth, I'm sorry to go off track a little bit,
Mhm.
but I do think that it doesn't have to go through our board. So if the chairman were to find out, this guy had some emergency or something today, he could probably take it forward without us. And I don't know that he wants to do that, but that's.
Yeah, it'd be his decision, I guess. He could. I don't think any of us here have a problem with Mr. Watkins. It's just a matter of.
He's just not here.
Not here, yeah. So,
Personally, if I could just weigh in on that, I personally would like to just keep with the process that these come before our committees, but.
okay,
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying it could be taken away from us. That's all.
okay, the process would be better. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay,
It's chairman's prerogative though, right, Joe? Is that what you're saying?
That's what
I'm
he's saying.
saying,
yeah.
Well, something might come to light about 2 of the 3 needing 2 of the 3 here. If they can't wait till September, if something comes up in their drainage district. So
Well,
something may come to light here in the near future, we just need to give the option for the chairman. I don't want to overrule the chairman's authority on that, his option. I like the process of coming to the committee.
yeah, okay.
So that's why I don't disagree with putting it off a month.
Okay. Moving on to presentations, I don't see anything, nothing on the routine consent agenda, old business, discussion and direction. We are at continued discussion on conditional use permits, is that?
Yeah. All right, so this is round 3 on this.
Such a gentleman.
Sit next to John Hill. All right, so the difference between rounds 1 and 2 on this is that we got a state's attorney's opinion specific to whether or not administrative review and administrative approval, if we had any authority to do administrative review for conditional use renewals. And they did provide a memo. It came out the way it came out. We've had numerous discussions before it came out with 3 different attorneys in the office, and in the end, the cleanest and the most sure path forward, if there's any desire for the county board to modify what the current process is for renewals specifically, would be to eliminate that time period or adjust it, but eliminating it would be the mechanism to make those renewals less, I guess if you will, cheaper. And so they wouldn't have to go through the process, whether it's financial or any of the other stuff. And that would be that would be within the authority of the county board to do that, to eliminate the time restraints or constraints on those conditional use permits.
Go ahead, Joe.
So what are you saying? When we first put it on, we have a 10-year time limit, for instance. So it comes up for renewal and the recommendation of the renewal is to eliminate the time zone? Or are you saying no time zone in the beginning?
In the beginning. So this would be an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance. Because right now what we have is put in there as, and really, I don't want to say it's a placeholder, but 10 years is more of a.
It's a minimum standard.
Yeah, minimum standard. And so the county board can amend that for every single conditional use. You can go 11 years, you can go 111 years.
You can go 0.
Or 0, yeah. Yeah.
So the idea being you'd have a conditional use and you wouldn't have any time frame on it?
The state's attorney put that out in terms of based on the question of if you wanted to eliminate or have administrative review, eliminate renewals or have any sort of administrative authority to do it, the best mechanism would be to remove the time frame, so you don't have the renewal.
So instead of like having an administrative thing, that we were trying to do something more in-house to eliminate coming back and having them do that, like administratively, you could say, okay, you've met this, now you're good.
Yeah.
But then we're taking it off of all of them.
That would come after those, after that amendment, that if this time minimum standard was removed, then all of the subsequent petitions would not have a time frame.
So that would eliminate them coming back for a renewal, obviously. But is that are you saying that's the only way we can eliminate this coming back to us? Or we can't do something that says, yeah, we can do it administratively and
as I took from those conversations, again, the memo states what it talks about in terms of what I took from their conversations, and I am no lawyer, but, was that the state statute stipulates that conditional uses shall be approved with a public hearing. So a public hearing is an association of that approval. And then that's, as I read it and understood what they were talking about, is that renewal would grant them another conditional use, and that may bypass that public hearing requirement.
So now we're back to the only way we could do it would be to eliminate any time frame on to start with.
Or
in order to do it administratively, they're not recommending we get rid of a time frame on conditional uses. They're just saying that if you want to do this administrative, if you don't want to have to deal with like an administrative review of a renewal, then just don't have a time frame.
Well, we can't do it, you can't just go to his office and have him put a stamp on it because of the need for the public hearings.
Correct. So in order to, because we're just trying to find a mechanism that makes it easier, but but that mechanism now becomes not having any time frame at all. Otherwise, we could continue as is. They're not recommending that we don't.
correct. As we read it, they're answering the question that we asked, which was how would you eliminate?
Right, they're not saying get rid of time frames. They're just saying if you want to do this, then this is the best way to do that.
That's the only way to do that.
Only way to do it.
Right, which I guess I'm not in favor of.
Yeah, they've just thrown out the
You
baby
don't,
with the
you don't
bathwater.
have to get a unlimited time frame. You could select
A longer
a
time.
longer time frame. Instead of 10 years, you could go at 20-year, universal. And
Well,
then,
that's been done a lot, Jim. Then just for one instance that comes to mind with me is the golf course. They had it for 20 years. But then because they had to come back to us, and then because of the acreage, the cost was going to be quite a bit. Somehow we changed that to be just the part that was around the buildings or something. I don't remember how that went.
There's probably a reduction in the acreage.
So 20 years goes by, I'm just saying.
because I'm not in favor of unlimited on anything, including solar farms, I just throw that out there. I'm not in favor of unlimited on anything, because what happens is you had a certain number of conditional uses out there that right now, we don't know what's going on with them, because they haven't reapplied. We don't know if they're still in business. And now you have all these parcels around there that have odd things on them, you know what I mean?
So is there any other part to that, this report or discussion that you wanted to bring forward, Adam?
There really isn't. I mean, that was kind of the final piece that we haven't introduced.
Okay, well, I think that was what we were looking for, and I don't know that anyone sitting here wants to say to eliminate the time frame completely. Is that?
I agree. I think that that may be the only way they can do it, in which case we just aren't going to do it then.
Just aren't going to do it. Okay. 9-1 is done.
All right.
Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry, just one quick point. There's no, so then what they said was, the fact of the matter is, if after 20 years, they have no violations, we couldn't leave it to the ministerial.
They're saying because the statute requires a public hearing.
It does require, so be it. Okay.
Unless we can get the state to change that statute.
Yeah, I'd worry about the energy code before I'd worry about that.
Okay.
And worry about them trying to get rid of single residential properties
Yeah.
So,
that they're trying.
thank you for getting the answer to that, Adam, but I think we're sort of stuck where we're at with that.
All good? All good.
Thanks.
Okay,
9.2.
9.2, McHenry Lake Soil and Water Conservation District Contract Renewal.
All right. This was, we discussed this last year, and we had initially proposed it as a 1 year with a maximum of 9 renewals, so it would be a 10-year contract. And we had a few discussions in terms of some of the expectations that we want to see.
The farmer stuff.
Yep, bingo. So, and the county board gave us a couple of expectations they want to see out in performance out of this contract, and we modified some of our operations. Really, in summation, it was to maybe be more involved with these interactions between the residences and the SWCD. And I believe we have. So we've with Stoyan's team, they've worked pretty closely with SWCD staff. There's been about 80 inspections that we've done this year to date. About 30 of them are I shouldn't say inspections, 80 calls for service from SWCD. So 30 or so have been inspections, and we have 16 or so plan reviews, and then it kind of titrates down from there into various phone calls or just, hey, what can I do, or how far can I stay away? All those little kind of things that we need to have answered for SMO, for the stormwater management ordinance requirements. So from a staff level, we would seek renewal for another year. The way the ordinance was written, or the way the resolution was written, is that the agreement is good for a year and renewed pending PED approval. So if you have any questions, or if there's,
We need a motion.
Yes, yeah, it is a little wonky on this one, it's a little different. I would say yes.
But staff would recommending that we'd approve it.
Yeah,
It's the same dollar value.
it is.
It's exactly the same resolution.
Yeah.
It's the same resolution.
So, and because of the new policy of being a little bit more active with the people that need our services, our violations have gone down?
So, yeah, we've seen a drop in our stormwater violations. We've had a lot more interface, a lot more education, outreach with our staff, from our staff to our residents.
So it's a lot better that staff is working with them instead of dealing with violations. We're not really costing us any more time because we don't have to deal with the violations then.
Right.
And it's getting done correct the first time.
Correct. Yeah.
That's a win-win on that. Jim, you're involved in the Stormwater Commission.
Yeah, being it's exactly the same as when we approved last year. That's what our beef was, is to do it year to year in case it got out of kilter again. And so I would move we approve this.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim to approve this. Carolyn, seconding. Any further discussion regarding this contract renewal? No discussion, we'll go to vote. Joe?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Are we gonna do a budget review, Adam?
We are, if that's all right.
If you're up for it, it's not mission critical, but we're here and they're ready.
You thinking 15 or 20 minutes, or?
Yeah, I can shave it.
Oh, you don't have to shave.
Yeah, I can.
It's 10:15, and I take a 10-minute break.
No, I don't think so. If you're looking, I'm like, wait, what are you talking about?
I'm tempted to do that interactive.
We're gonna take a 10-minute break.
All right.
Staff's been here for 2 hours or more already and needs a break.
I can make a quick phone call.
That interactive was pretty He's cutting 20.
25 budget is, we're gonna lay out all the performance factors, all the.
We good, Dan? Okay, we're back on.
Sorry, we're
Okay,
back
no,
on,
no
sorry.
problem, no problem. Go ahead and start.
But in a nutshell, right, this is a year of where we're financially going to be quiet, we're stable, we're not coming to you with a big ask. That said, we're still changing absolutely everything that we're doing in our department. So, you know, those two reconcile. With us, we've got some of the characters in the cast and crew. Back row, we've got our interns.
Character over there.
Characters, cast and crew. You guys determine which one they are. Cindy McGee, our office manager, Renee Hanlon, planning zoning enforcement officer, and deputy director, and Steve Gardner, our building official. We're missing two. Hans Mock's out sick, and Stoyan is flying to Brazil, so he's gone for the month. We don't feel all that bad for him. Our department, so looking at this from the operations standpoint, that is our budget. People are our budget from the P&D side. So our duty, our task is to maintain the public safety, welfare, and really quality of life with our ordinances, Unified Development Ordinance, Stormwater Management Ordinance, building codes, and then the administration of our community development programs. So we'll get into some of those, but if you're here for the CD budget, they are actually going to present, Hans and crew are going to present at the PHCS meeting next month. So we know the numbers, but I'm not going to dive too deep into those programs. So if you do have questions, we'll coordinate with Hans. All right, last couple of years we've been giving you this. Our full-time equivalents have not changed. And this meets the standards for the finance group, but it doesn't really tell the story in terms of how our office operates. We've got, and so we're changing it, how's that? This really does. We've got kind of two different sections within our department. Community development to the left, they really operate independently of the permit stakeholders, which those divisions are to the right. So to the left, community development and their CD specialists and their senior CD specialists, they are the ones that interface with the various groups, the sub-recipients, the developers, the commissions, the boards. They administer those grants. On the right side, this is kind of a flow chart and how permits come in, and administration is kind of our quality control. They make sure that what is coming in is reviewable. They make sure the financials that come in are accurate to the contracts. Planning division, they are going to verify what you want to do, you can do, where you want to do it. Water resources, they're going to look at making sure that your stormwater management plan is going to work, making sure you don't have inadvertent impacts to your own property or to your adjacent properties in the community as a whole. And then the building division, that's one that kind of everybody knows. So making sure the building is safe. One of the things that I would remind people of that the buildings are made to withstand emergencies so that people can get out. So it's not that this thing needs to be a Taj Mahal, it needs to suffice, and that's our life safety component. So that concept is applied down all the way through temporary occupancy zones. The positions that we've highlighted here, in the last, admittedly a little bit beyond just this fiscal year, we've brought through the committee, and we've adjusted, and the county, ultimately the county board has approved them. So we'd like to say thank you, whether that was a regrade, a reclassification, trying to address needs, and so we've reassigned positions or created a new position to bolster a need within the department. The construction management internship, that's another one we'll touch on, but extending our advertisement and working with the county and working with our employees. The reason that's important is because our staff is rather lopsided in terms of years of experience. Cindy McGee has been here for 37 plus years, and everybody to the right of Cindy there has been trained by Cindy. We are not who we are without her. So thank you for stick around.
Call you Karen.
You don't even look that old.
Been there since she was 10.
But all right, no, she has. And our median, where's this laser? That's off. Is about 6.5 years. So we've got 8 or 9 to the left of that. We've got 20 to the right of it. That flow chart's critical. You know, when we interview people, there's 2 things that we've kind of adjusted and asked. 1, can you educate people? And 2, you're not going to be on an island. You know, there's interdependencies we have a lot of specialties, but we also have a lot of need for reinforcement. So the other thing I'll point out with this chart is that we have 2 positions that are under a year. Tomorrow actually marks 1 year and 1 month since we've had a resignation. And that's a weird thing to boast about, but that's the longest that we've had since I've been with the county, with the department. And with that, we have 2 that are sub a year. One was a position that took a little while to fill when we promoted Stillian up. And the other one was a retiree. So we do have graduates. We have Audrey Martin, after 20 years retired, and she was within our administrative division. And one, highlight her, but I also highlight, we had a retiree with the high-density electronic storage unit the same day. So these 2, great career, celebrate Audrey, but also that removal of that cabinet is the culmination of about 10 years of work. Wow. We've been scanning and digitizing records going back to 2014, 2015. It's been deliberated here on numerous occasions on whether or not we should even be going down that road. And ultimately, the committee supported it, and we continue to do it. Last year, this year, say in February, we moved about 5,000 records out of that. Those were the ones that were just closed in the last 2 years, and the active building permits and stormwater permits that are still going on. We relocated those and we removed those records. It's kind of a big mark for us because now we have a complete set of data, of records going back to the 40s to the ones that are open right now, or the ones that are recently closed, those 5,000 permits. We've seen one of our metrics that we track on whether or not this is effective, and maybe we think it is this chart. These are the FOIAs. These are mid-year numbers, so over the last 5 years, just the midpoints to do apples to apples on it, we're at 165. So compared to the 5-year average, we're down about 20%. The data's out there, the message is out there. That's at least what we believe, and people are utilizing the website to get those records. So, in addition, we've taken and reconverted that space into something usable. So now we have kind of a flexible office space, a little workshop, office conference area, kind of a workshop space so we can kind of sit, shop with people and bring people in that maybe working at the counter isn't effective. So, and we also host our interns. So our interns sit there. This is our last week of the internship program. So the guys in the back, Vashon Gates from Crystal Lake Central High School, Eric Hay from Harvard, and Jacob Perchesha. I can never get it. Jacob Ochea. The interview was worse. I really butchered that. From Huntley High School. So these gentlemen are with us for the summer, from a program from MCC, and it's a program that we're really excited about. You guys approved it in January. They've had a crash course, kind of an immersive experience, some fast-paced stuff, a couple cat houses, a couple flooded properties, and then some slower times. There's a couple file management type pieces. I'm not sure meetings are everyone's favorite. Sorry, Bash, I'm gonna call you out on that. But we've had a lot of department administration as well. So, cat houses, yeah. We're excited about this. This program itself was modeled off of the manufacturing consortium. In its first year, there were 6 employers, there were 50 candidates. I believe there were 20 to 22 interns that were placed. We have 3 of them. And we see it not only as a good opportunity for them, build their resume, it's a good opportunity for us to take some of their labor, gives us an opportunity to practice our education. It also is, in connection with MCC, is a bridge towards training. So we give high school students an opportunity to see what the county has to offer. MCC's integrated, has been a good partner, and they've integrated a class specifically for municipalities and counties, which is an ICC training class. So they have CMT 120. It's part of their core curriculum for the construction management program. And you can walk out of that with the credentials, certification within the ICC that you would be eligible to apply for our building positions, our permanent tech positions, so, and any of the others in the municipality. So we're excited. They even got famous. So this is a snapshot from the WGN News. There was a fire up Rose Farm Road. One of the communications specialists there from Woodstock Fire gave us a little buzz and said, hey, if you want to bring somebody out, this would be a good one. So they beat the news before me. Floodplain buyouts. What is this like? Our floodplain buyouts, we're on the last 2 houses. We secured these houses in January after a long 18 or so month process to close on one of these 2. They're ready for demo. We've got the contract set, permits are set, but another example of interagency cooperation. The sheriffs are training in them. So they're using it for their dogs, their SWAT team. This is Deputy Bodway and his dog Enzo, and I think that's the sheriff's internship. That's their program. They got one back there. I don't know if you can even see him, but there's a dog guy. There's a dog bite costume guy. So we will, I think October-ish, we're looking to demo these finally and be done with it and turn them into open green space. And that'll actually close out our program for this round, I should say it that way. We're looking for more eligible candidates, as are the sheriff's departments. A couple other special projects, big ones, SmartGov. This is where I say we're not really asking for anything, but we're changing everything. All that scanning, all those digital records. SmartGov is our permit application, and it's rolling. We've had, many of you will remember, many attempts at permit applications and programs, I should say. This is the 4th iteration, and I'm happy to say that we're moving in, if you will. We're doing data migration. We're moving towards that phase, which means we've gone through the configuration, we've gone through the testing, we've got a couple of sign-offs to complete on workflows. But all in all, they're preparing us to do data migration, which is the equivalent of moving stuff into the house. So we're excited for where this is at. And it has been a lot of hands and all hands on deck. Initially, it started with just our building permits. We knew it was going to be stormwater permits and all of our in-house things that we cover. And as we got into the details more really quickly, it turned into an outreach of various departments. So liquor commission's involved, health department's involved. We have interfaces with our financial systems, certainly some of our other programs, but then also the assessors, the fire districts. It's going to allow instant communication, file transfers, just a higher quality of service. So we're excited for this. A couple of the people that I would highlight on this, everybody again played a role, but Jesse Porter with IT, he's been there managing this project from the beginning. JT Bowers and Sarah Heisberg, they have been involved and really taken it and ran with it. So these are 2 staff members that have gone above and beyond and done a great job of helping lead QA sessions and one-on-one trainings. 2050 plan. You guys will talk about that more in the upcoming months. I will highlight that the portion related to the budget is concluded. So we're almost done, I'll say it that way. That contract was really run mostly, or just say, through the RPC's, or in concurrence with the RPC's work. It is, we know it's a big plan, comprehensive plan, has a lot of different aspects to it, and the RPC has set it up and put it forth for you. What I would say about this, or what I want to say about this, is acknowledge Renee's work on it. From everything from the initial commission, lining up the concepts, managing the meetings and all the different particulars with that, the financials, addressing all the questions that come in, dispersing of information. It was an Omen's job. And it was 2 years of work with a commission that changed names, expanded, new liaisons here and there. So it was a lot of juggling and some instant demands that were handled instantly. So well done, Renee. She's not feeling her best, so I apologize for putting you on the spot. These are our finals, if you will, of special projects. These are all embedded within our contractuals. I mentioned that this year we're not bringing anything new as a supplemental request. Next year we will. Our contracts for the USGS well monitoring network, that'll be up at the end of this year. Our plan review consultants and our water resources engineering consultants, those 4-year contracts will be up this coming year. Soil and Water Conservation District we just approved. And then these last 3 are a little bit different. We have a grant, this is kind of pass-through money, but this $78,000 for the Nipperstein grant, that is a study that was approved 2 months ago through the county board. That's within our contractuals now, and that's really going to set the stage for the next round of floodplain buyout properties. CLG grant, that is something that was previously approved. We're kind of carrying that over, but is embedded. And then the Nipperstein stream gauge, right? That's at $5,000 now. Member Ness had brought up, hey, is there any interest in expanding that dollar amount? There's a bigger conversation, I think, at this point in time that we're going to try to bring forward to the committee to address just that. I mean, it's a small dollar amount at this point. If we needed to make some adjustments, we didn't put it in as a supplemental request or anything like that. But it's a larger conversation of stream gauges and their usefulness and beneficiaries and the county's role in all of that. And we've partnered with the USGS with leveraging our current contract with USGS to gain some of that information. And we're hoping for a presentation to the county board or the committee sometime this year, but maybe early next year, that we would be able to kind of give a little bit of insight on where we think that stream gauge program may go. Outside of special projects, kind of honing in, this is our performance indicators. So these are all data sets that we pull from our everyday operations. Try to keep this pretty uniform. 2023 actuals are projected, where we're at mid-year, and then our projections going forward. We've added a few lines here and there, but all in all, it's the big hitters. So the ones I'll focus on are going to be the ones that are either up or down from our averages. So the first one on that would be single-family residences. We've had an uptick. We're at 37 at mid-year. Currently, to date, we're at 53. So we are just 3 behind where we were last year for the full calendar year. Year 3 of our permit reviews. Our division managers have taken this task, this goal, and owned it as an expectation. We're within striking distance of the 90% goal again for this year. It'll be 2.5 years at the date, and we don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to achieve it again for the 3rd year. Zoning petitions are up. They're at the 75% mark. For the year, at the mid-year point, there's no real story to that besides it's solar farms that are kind of making up a big chunk of those. And then we do have just higher zoning activity with other petitions in general. Our numbers for violations, we touched on that. I'll touch on that in a little bit more detail, but we talked about that a little bit with SWCD. We've seen a decrease in our actual violations that are going to court. And then we talked about FOIA requests at 165 in that data set. To the single family residences, so these are those 4 of those items that we talked about in the top left corner, our permits to revenues. Our permit numbers are actually down, but our revenues are higher than they have been in the past. So we see people building bigger stuff. We see 37 houses, 53 year to date. Those permits themselves just if it would take about 10 accessory structures or 3 or 4 additions to match the revenues from a building permit for a single family residence. So some of that tracks, that's at least our operating theory at this point. Zoning petitions is just kind of graphic representation to show you that, hey, these things are up about 50% from where they typically are at this point. Our metrics and kind of showing our consistent track, April was probably our toughest month, and that, not to our surprise, coincided with one of the more difficult months of SmartGov work, as we're ramping up and doing some training for new employees. So there's some factors there that just hit us at the right time. And then the case is referred to the state's attorney's office. That's, we look at that, it's kind of like a golf score. Lower, I hate to say the lower the better, but we're gonna do our job and respond to the violations. And we have, and we do. So we've seen these numbers come down a little bit, just in general. Our permits have gone up a little bit. One of the factors that I would point to is gonna be our education. It's gonna be our ability to communicate the requirements cleanly and in a manner that folks aren't going to push back and say, bring it, and take us to court if you want to. Our folks, we talked about SWCD. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, I think that's great that that's gone down that much. I mean, the old days you used to come in here and whoever was behind the counter would tell you one thing, and a week later you're getting a violation because the next guy behind the counter was saying something different. And to get that consistent and to get those violations down and the compliance because of the education, that's fantastic.
Thank you. And it's a trend we're tracking. I will never get around to 0. We have common names in that compliance file, as everyone does. So it's all good. But no, I appreciate it.
And thanks for not mentioning my name.
He's always here every month. Moving to expenditures. In 2024, we're not gonna fulfill all of our expenditures or our anticipated expenditures. We have had a couple of different factors. 2 recently filled positions in April. ZBA per diems, as much as they're meeting, the per diems are still going out at about 1/3 of the fiscal year. So whether that's Charlie running an efficient house, our staff providing pretty clean reports and managing those meetings, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And then we haven't had to use our third-party consultants, our secondary plan reviews, and our water resource engineer consultants. Primarily because we haven't been behind. We haven't been at that 4 weeks out to get a permit reviewed. When these 2 consultants were created, we were at 8 weeks to get a deck reviewed. And some of you remember that vividly. So we're proud of the fact that we haven't had to dip into that. We're also very proud of that and happy that the county board continues to fund that. It has other implications. If we get hit by a tornado, having a secondary review service is critical. We would be setting up a lot of different inspections, a lot of different things that would go with that. It also scores well with our ISO, the Insurance Services Office, that does a review every 5 years. So that improves our score for that. So it's a necessary, we would continue to contend it's a necessary component. With our 25 expense request, 80% of that is going to go to personnel. $60,000 or so of this contractual number at 18% is also personnel. Our contracts for our secondary review services, SWCD, these that would otherwise be transferred over to 2, maybe 3 positions within our roster, that would be far more than $60,000 would be. So that's kind of our representation in terms of what our expense request is going forward. We've trimmed a little bit of unnecessary weight from what our expenses would be. Some telecommunications. We had nothing much. It's in the total of about $13,000. So it's nothing to really write home about, but get it on the record that we did it. Our revenues. This one admin got all over us for. No, no, our revenues admittedly have been conservative in our estimations. And then we've exceeded them for the last several years. And they all have different stories, but the building, stormwater, and zoning, those we've increased 500, a lot for building to, or if you will, $110,000 in expected revenues increase for next year. Stormwater was more of an incremental. Zoning, we're really just adapting to what we see, and that is an uptick in zoning petitions. And we do get quite a bit more revenue than anticipated. This year, again, we're at double what our expectation is. We don't see that going down drastically. And then printing, I highlight that, it's a small line item, but I highlight that because SmartGov and the implementation of these digital review processes will impact that line specifically. Right now and for the last several years, when people email a print in, we still have to print it. And that cost, if we print it, that cost goes to the applicant. And so our $2,000 of printing budget is kind of kept there as an example to show this is how out of balance that particular portion of our operation is. That is pretty much what I got for you.
Any questions? I got one, I guess, on the very first page in the flow chart for CD. I'll let you get back to it. That one, community development is under planning and development, and they answer to public health.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, we flipped it because the chair of PED was the chair of the Community Development Grant Commission, but it didn't make much sense because Hans was answering to public health.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe instead of flipping that, we should have flipped them to public health, or, I mean, is there, I don't want to say conflict, but is there any lack of communication because they're going to public health and not coming to this committee? Or does it work? If it works, I guess, but it just seems a little bit counterintuitive.
I'll say this, full disclosure, I wasn't involved with the split when they, and how that shook out. Hans and I meet routinely, we communicate routinely, he'll send me emails up for whatever updates need to be there. But I mean, his operations, I guess I would turn it around. His operations, we try to make them as transparent to the committees as possible. One of the ways that we do that is to keep them focused in one committee. If he was to report here, I don't think it would make shake up his world. And I haven't reported to the PHCS committee for a long time. Hans has. So if the county board's getting the information, I guess is what I'm getting at, unless you think that maybe that is a point of confusion, and we should have a bigger discussion about it.
I don't know that it is.
Okay.
I guess as long as you guys are meeting and the communication's there, he's communicating with you, but reporting to public health, and it just doesn't seem like that's the way it ought to be. And I'm not saying it's bad or wrong. Is there a better way? Or if it's good the way it is, leave it alone.
Well, I'll answer that too with my first year and a half or 2 years in this position, I was convinced there could have been a better way, but it was mostly my just adapting. It's using the right side of my brain with the permit stakeholder division and the left side with the community development. It's a different race. And so it's fallen into place in a manner in which we're with the program, if you will, and making it work. But it's something we can certainly continue to monitor.
Okay, that's fine. I was always curious how it ended up that way.
Yeah. All right.
Anybody else have any questions for Adam?
Thank
All right.
you.
Nope,
Dan,
that's it.
Thank you.
I'll be happy with your work.
And take you guys out
Thanks.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, yeah. Okay.
What do
So,
I do now?
after our jumping around before, we're done with the reports.
Sure.
Future topics. Nothing, executive session, none needed.
Do we have
Motion to
a
adjourn.
consensus to move
I'm
that
heard.
forward?
Pardon?
Do we have a consensus to move the budget
sure.
forward?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
do we have consensus to move the budget forward? John, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Larry, the 2050 plan, I don't know if that's something on future topics, if we wanted to talk about that with the time.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, all good, thank you.
Yeah, everybody's getting ready to go. So,
All right.
motion adjourned by Mr. Gadamala.